Hello and welcome to Warblog. This is going to be a direct play of the Arab-Israeli War, 1948, Southern Front. I played this once in an earlier video, which if you haven't seen you won't know anything about, but I'm going to call that the practice video because there are a few things wrong with it. So in this one I'm not going to bother with the preamble, so if you want the preamble go and look at the previous video, the one that says Arab-Israeli War, Southern Front Practice. And this one is the real thing. As far as they're still sort of fairly embryonic in the, I haven't really got past the first stage, but essentially I won't go into the preamble a bit, but basically we've got to take out these two places. That's sort of the next thing. And when I did it the first time, this proved to be a big problem. They're tough. If I split the forces up and get 1-to-1, I think on both of them, well, this one might not even be a 1-to-1, it might be a 1-to-2. So what I'm going to have to do now, in the knowledge that these are pretty tough, is, and in this case we've got the armour as well, is to try everything on one of these places first. Now historically, near him, if they attacked near him using artillery armoured cars, carrying cannons and Bren carriers, which we don't have the armoured cars here. I haven't got the mechanised units. I chose not to because they were sort of, they seem to be integrated with the main force. And they attack this place with tanks. The descriptions are sort of fairly general, so I'm sort of splitting them up. And I think the whole idea is use the armoured elements, one for each, to represent that. But I think first thing, so that's the 2nd Battalion, that's the 4th Battalion. So I'm going to move the 4th Battalion over there. Do we have any more 2nd Battalion? 2nd Battalion, 2nd Battalion, 4th Battalion, well, that's the 1st Battalion. So the 4th Battalion looks as though it's in the wrong place. Oh well. I can get my armour around there, which I think is going to make a difference. So that's my preparation for the attack, essentially on near him. And I'm going to put everything on near him because I've no idea what the odds are going to be, but I think they're going to be a little higher. I've got a number of factors in my favour now that should really boost things. Firstly, the last time I did it I only had 1 hex. This time I've got 3, so they give me a 20% bonus. I've got armour now against infantry, which make these a lot tougher. So these are going to be not just 3, they're probably going to be about 4.5 each, so that's 9 there instead of 6. I got twice as much artillery, and I've got twice as many units. So I'm going to guess, I can't bother to do the maths. Well, let's do some maths. They're going to be worth 9, aren't they? 9 in the fortress. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18... plus 9, 18, 27, 27, 29, 35. So it's going to be about 3-to-1 plus a 20%. It's going to be about 3-to-1, possibly a 4-to-1. 3-to-1 defender eliminated. Now, that's an interesting role because, essentially, they put up a stoic resistance. But the thing with these historic miracle defences is that basically you can't replicate them on a board, and they are freaks of luck. And they would be represented by in a game by just a fantastic die roll. And I think a lot of games go to quite a lot of length to replicate these sorts of situations, whereas they could equally well go the other way, where you have a weak force attacking a strong force and strong force routes, which is sort of what happened in Mosul with ISIS. So, and probably lots of other situations, but so in this one they've actually been eliminated. So I'm not sure what to make of that. Let's go back. I mean, the odds were only 3-1, so that's not actually brilliant odds. It's just a really good die roll, and it's really good die rolls that have a knock-on effect throughout the whole game. Because now that unit is not just, that's a major sort of tangent or diversion from the historic norm that we had last time, because essentially they held out and the Egyptians were retreated. So not only have they've lost the unit, which makes the whole front line here very different, and they're all in good form. It's sort of a double whammy. I mean, if they had an exchange, that would have been fairly sort of, I don't know, not so much expected. I think an exchange or something like that would have seen the game go in a completely different direction. But for that result at this stage, it's going to have a knock-on effect throughout the whole thing, because they're never going to have to fight that unit again. It's not as though they could have, there's no second chance to get a bad die roll against that unit because it's not there. So now none of the units have any movement points. So that's that. So now we've got this stuff down here. Now they come along here. They come along a few days later, 15th of May when this went through. Yeah, they had this column actually sort of goes straight across here to take this out. But let's move some armour, see how far we can get with that as a sort of spearhead. That's that. So this is the 4th Battalion, some of the 4th Battalions over there. That's as far as they can get. I think that must be a mistake. It's probably part of the 2nd or something like that. They just haven't changed the counter. And there's the 5th Battalion. So we've got the 4th and 5th complete over here. So that 4th is probably something else. The Egyptians had 2 lots of artillery. They had 6-pounders and 25-pounders. Now I stuck them further over here just to sort of make it a little trickier, and obviously it's a longer route. So they're going to take a lot longer to sort of get to that sort of engagement position. I'm not going to use the air power right now, because if I use the air power now on these units, they will probably not move next turn and they will recover. So it's going to be a bit of a waste. So now the Israelis. Now again, I mean that is it's going to have a major knock-on effect throughout the whole game. If they'd managed to hold out there, it would have been completely different. And I think historically, it's exactly the same thing. I mean, there was no reason why they did hold out in Nimam. It says, the Egyptians attacked Nimam using artillery, armoured cars carrying cannons and Brent carriers. The Egyptians' attacks met fierce resistance from the few and lightly armed defenders of both settlements and failed. I mean, that just sort of tells you a little bit about the whole odds approach to, you know, hex war games. You know, there were only a few of them defending, and there was no reason why they should have held out. It was, I don't want to say it's just luck, but it was essentially a large part of it was just the fate of war. You know, it was just luck. But you know, how would you model that? Were they high caliber troops? Were the Egyptians particularly sort of unenthusiastic about their activity? I mean, just to put it into perspective, the Arab League expected, when they were sort of discussing the plans with the other Arab League members, they were expecting it to be over in a week. They expected it to be just sort of a drive to Tel Aviv. They didn't actually expect any resistance. And so far, this is, you know, the numbers sort of add up for that. But here, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I think there is only one decision as to whether or not to bring some of these units down to try and defend this. I just can't decide. And I think not, because by the time they get there, 1, 2, 3, they'll have to hold out this turn. I think I'll go for it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so now the Egyptians' next turn. It's worth putting this armour outside here because they can't, although the numbers would be 1-to-1, because it's infantry attacking armour, there would be like a 50% reduction. So it's going to be a 1-to-2, or maybe even a 1-to-3. This is going to take a long time to move up. I wonder if that unit vanished or something. Nope, it did go into there. So the question here is how best to sort of carry out this engagement. I think why won't you move? Right. It won't move because somehow it's gone on to the Israeli turn. I think that was sort of what I did down here. Well, they've lost the turn, so let's assume they lost the initiative, which is interesting. Okay. Well, we're back to sort of square one now. I'm very much interested in games where it's a good idea to keep things in reserve and then to use them where reserve is required. And that's what you could assume that some of these units were. But obviously the leaves Izdad unprotected. But the Gavani brigade will come on probably in a couple of turns. Okay, well, let's try this again. And now, this is interesting because it's exactly the same situation, only we've got now another 10%. We're at 3-to-1 last time. And this time it's at 4-to-1, but this time with greater odds, we just got the defender retreat. And that's the sort of difference I was sort of inferring before. level depression. Okay, so the second part. Whose turn is it? Oh yeah, I think not sure how much you got at the end of that battle. But essentially, we forced the this Israeli unit out. Again, I was just sort of remarking to myself, you know, how different it is when you get a defender retreat versus a defender eliminated. He's still in play. You can still do things. The three, I mean, it goes without saying, but when you've got such a small, just trying to shuffle around here. When you've got such a small engagement, so to speak, events like that can have a much more significant effect on the overall game. I mean, historically, the Nirim held out for a lot longer. I get the feeling that it eventually fell, but maybe they went around Nirim because they did get up to Isdad. But I mean, it's really obvious in the sense that clearly an exchange, no effect, an exchange, defender retreat, defender eliminated are all very, very different results. You know, there's no question of that. But basically, they are very significant, and I think it's one of the things that I quite like to sort of reflect on is, you know, the actual implications of a single battle. I see quite a lot of these games, and I go off on this quite often, but they seem to sort of go through town after city without ever pausing to consider its historic precedent or significance. Nothing too wrong with that, but I think it's sort of worthwhile once you balance things up against the historic sort of precedent. Now, none of these units have any move. Oh, this unit has some movement. Yeah, but one is not enough to get in there. That's the problem. 2.8. Okay. I think it's worth putting out armour in there just to make sure that they can't retake it. And that has been moved out. I think it's worth attacking that with both units. Now I can attack it with both units with a little more confidence this time because both units will have their own separate result on this. Historically, I would use one unit because I'd get a 1-to-1, and then the chances of getting a 1-to-1 getting an exchange was a little higher than maybe using two to get a 1-to-1 or two to get a 1-to-2. So the air power actually works a little differently. So what we'll see here, or did we? We had one unit go in, the other unit possibly had no effect, but we caused 1.9, so they should be on I think they're on 2.3. Yeah, 2.3 plus 1.9 is 4.2. So now, the reason I did that was just to sort of, I mean, 2.3 they could have recovered slightly, but they're not going to recover so much. That unit is a little more damaged now. So now it's the Israelis' turn, and again they've sort of been forced out of there, but they're still holding this sort of line. And the question is, do we want to sort of do anything? Now we've got a lot of armour in here on its own. We could possibly attack them with this anti-tank unit and this infantry. This would be interesting because they're worth 6 times 3, which is 18, and we could muster up. Now that anti-tank would go up to 10, and it's only armour, so that'd be 10, 13, 14, maybe in a bit, 15, 16. We wouldn't even get a 1-to-1, really. Well, I'm not sure whether I want to move that unit, but if I don't, he'll probably get attacked, but it will force him to split his move up. Over here I don't think there's much to do, and I'm still going to keep these to hold out these units, these positions here. Okay, I'm going to use the air power to try and soften up what's in there. Yeah, so this time we got two attacks that went in. Okay, their strength was combined, so they were at 4.5 versus 3 and 9, but no effect on either, even though that was a 1-to-1. No effect. Okay, that's interesting. Okay. I'm going to use one of these armour units and all of the artillery. Getting a 1-to-2. So the anti-tank is now down to depression 3, the infantry is 1.4. That is the sort of stoic defence that you might have maybe imagined. Obviously if they break through here, there's one less unit to protect the lines going forward. Now I did that in that order because I think we should have a little easier time against this unit with this armour and 2 infantry units. I mean, at depression 3.2 is going to be worth sort of about 2. So we're going to have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, possibly 3-to-1, 4-to-1. 4-to-1 defender retreat. That was good. Putting him up to 5.2, so we're 50% now, and got some movement. So this guy doesn't have any movement because he's involved in the exchange. There's no movement in the infantry either. So slowly starting to push forward, and I think it's, although this fell very easily, this is holding up. The odds are sort of fairly comparable, but the die rolls are different, so that's what's happening there. Here, now just one thing, I mean I could zoom all the way up to Jerusalem, but it's not an objective in this game, and it wasn't part of the sort of the strategic scope of the Egyptian invasion. They were going up here for Tel Aviv. This was actually being contested by the Syrians and the Iraqis, so etc. I'm not sure which ones exactly, but that's sort of the next stage. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, so we now have another major assault. Oops. It would help if I selected some of the units. Two to 1 and an exchange. So the Egyptians are not having the walk in the park that they hoped they would have, because their units have now got a depression, as do the Israeli units. So, Israel. Now the question with this unit is we can move him back and try and recover him, or leave him there, forcing the Egyptians to split their force between 2 targets, possibly move across this way to support this lot, going to do, I'm going to move him there. And to protect him, I'm not going to move him out. Yeah. But we've got the S199s. Which I'm going to try and... There. I don't know what's wrong with that. They've arrived on this turn. It's the first turn entry syndrome. I'm still yet to figure that out. Not so much figure it out, just deal with it. It's quite hard to replicate actually, so I keep forgetting, so that's that. So he'll be on next turn, no big loss. But they're going to carry on their holding out, and so are they, so there's not much for the Israelis to actually do. However, their Givenchy brigade is now on board, which should slow things up, as well as the Napoleonic artillery. And should we put some artillery on this lot? I mean, some air power on this lot? I think so. I think we're going to try the bomber in there. Well, that was quite good. 1.8 against the anti-tank. And the Spitfire in there. 3.4. Well, that was worthwhile. So he's now at 3.8. I think we'll push him there. And then we'll leave him there, I think. Push him there and there. Commit everything. Wow. Well, at least we're getting this anti-tank unit well and truly pounded. Slowly surrounding Beersheba. Three to one, and an exchange. I think it's definitely interesting because essentially what we've been looking at there are, other than the initial easy win, a lot of exchanges, a lot of holding out, a lot of slowing things down, and I think essentially the Egyptians did see this as being, you know, a quick walk to Tel Aviv, and it could have happened. They could have done that. I mean, in this scenario, we could have done it if we got the right die rolls. It's not as though the odds were impossible. It just comes down to being, you know, lucky. Can you just roll through each of these towns? I mean, we hold up at this town now for 2 or 3 turns. Admittedly, it's taken quite a while to get there. But we still haven't got through this yet. I think they should fall. However, what we now have let's put him into safety, is the Givenchy brigade. We've only got a few seconds left, so I'm going to leave the next stage for the next video. But clearly, when these locks start coming down here, it's going to get very difficult. And historically, the Egyptians were stalled. They didn't win. They got as far as Istad, and then they basically stopped their advanced posture and went into defensive mode. So yeah, we'll get that in a few moments. Okay, so it's now the Givenchy, see the Israeli move with their Givenchy brigade. I think there was a glitch here where I missed a turn, so it's not entirely fair in the sense that the Egyptians have sort of lost a turn here. Probably not much we can do there, but there is the option of trying to retreat. What I'm thinking in silence is, can I somehow get this unit to reinforce down here? And I don't think I can. That anti-tank unit is well and truly hammered. But if I don't try, I will never be able to do that movement. Although I could wait. Let's see what we can do with the 199s. Okay, so half a damage. Okay, the Egyptian turn. Well, no idea really what they want to do, but I'm going to try and do some damage to these units. So that's 1.4 onto this unit, 2 onto this, so this is a pretty good run actually, 1.6 onto this unit, and 1 onto this unit. That was good. Should I try it again with the Spitfire? Not as good, but 3.5 against that. That's a bit odd because he shouldn't go beyond the 4th unit. I'll have to look into that, but I'm not going to do that now. So basically the Israelis are being hammered with this air power. Really. I should really maybe put in some anti-aircraft units. Okay. Well, this should be the end of the Israelis in whatever place this is. An exchange, but with 6.3 damage. And he's at 13.8, so he's worthless, and he's at 3.6. He's got depression of 2.5 now. Two full surrounds. Ah, DR. That's what they wanted. So they've now cleared out Beersheba, allowing this whole group. Depressions 2. Depressions 2. The ability to start moving up. If that had won, this would have been completely different. But okay. Israel. Well, can we try and take out this armour unit? .5, that was nice. Oh, I said 1.5 to 0. That was wrong. Got a few glitches here, it's a bit depressing. Well, it's depression 6. Which means I can try and finish him off with this, and might as well get this anti-tank unit into play. In actual fact, I might as well get both of them into play. Interesting. Where did he go? He vanished. That wasn't good. He should have retreated to there. It's not looking good. 2 big errors in a row. Okay. Three to 1, defend a retreat. So we move to there. I think, to be quite honest, what might have happened there was because he got a retreat and he was less than 10, he was removed. Because he's got depressions 13.8, the reason he's not removed is because he's actually, he didn't get retreat, he only got an exchange, and that exchange has been building up, or the air power's been doing it. So I think that was actually correct, because he got 6 depressions. I'm not going to go back that far now, but the Israelis are really now counter-attacking. I think we're missing a road through Fallujah. I put the road into Fallujah, but it won't work for this game, so the track. Well, fire my artillery onto this unit. I wonder if I can get it onto this. Yes. Okay. Okay. So it's quite bloody, really. I mean, these two units have now been pretty much pounded. 6.7, 6.5. So they're not much use. I moved this unit a little bit too far, I think. Although I still managed to fire him for some reason. That's interesting, because I could actually... No, I've got not any movement with them. So we've now got a front line sort of down here. Okay. Well, that Egyptian air power really took a toll last time, so let's see what we can do this time. No effect, 3.3, no effect. See what Spitfires can do over here. No effect, 0.1. Right, still a 0.1. Still takes the edge off of an exact 3. Instead of a 1 to 1, it's a 1 to 2. There'll be a penalty for going up against armour. So we can't finally get these people to retreat. Well, 3.9 DR. And they managed to retreat to there. But he retreated, and he's got a depression of 15.8. Okay, so we've finally taken that place. No, they've moved, haven't they? Okay. Okay, we've got a smidgen of movement left there, so let's see what damage we can do here with this artillery. And might as well put everything in there. An exchange, a 1 to 2 an exchange, but we still did some damage. Okay, that's it for the next round. I'll see you shortly. Okay, this will have to be the last what's it that I do. Mainly because YouTube has an hour limit now. Apparently it's a bit of a glitch, but it doesn't matter, it's still effective, so I can't put more than 4 videos together, and I don't want to be putting videos in parts 1 and 2. So this will be the 4th video. So as long as I keep it under 15 minutes, I should be able to stitch them all together to quite an hour long video. The Arab League is still sort of doing their turn, so I think they just did some activity over here, which means that this unit's probably got some movement left. And this artillery Doesn't have any movement because they did their firing, so we'll end that. Now, I think there were some errors with the way air combat worked, but I think I've sorted those out now. I'm going to try and take out this unit here. Let's see what happens. Okay, so both of those look like quite reasonable odds. We were getting 7 to 1s, where the reason it was a 7 to 1 because it was something against 0, which would be 7 to 1. So I put in something that hopefully that will stop that happening. I don't know why it was happening, but got no effect against the armour. But we've got 1.4 against the infantry, which is good. Putting up to 4.4. That was maybe a bad move. Okay. That's quite nice. 1.2. 1.4, 1.8. No effect, 1.5. 3.2, 5.6, 5.9. 0.6, 6.9. That unit's got to be cream crackers. So this artillery is really, these new artillery rules are really sort of pounding. Okay, so how much is this unit on? 6.5. Hmm. 7 to 1, defender eliminated. It's really taking on a sort of a different perspective now. I wonder what my odds would be against this stack. .5 to 3.5, 5. I think it's worth waiting. I'm not going to attack that. Depression 3. Depression 4.4, no. Okay, well, getting that back down to the proper odds. I think these ones were going 3-0, which meant the odds were 7-1. So we've at least, we seem to be doing a lot of damage. The artillery is doing a lot of damage to the Egyptians, but the air power is doing a lot of damage to their artillery. It seems quite brutal in all regards. 4.9. In actual fact, let's do the Spitfire. 1.6. Okay. Huh. 6-1. Defender eliminated. Ooh, look at that move. 1.1. So about 3.5. It's going to be 1-1. 2-1. Possibly a 2-1. Let's go for it, seeing as we've got the situation. 3-1 DR. That was nice. So that's really, I don't know, it's just going all over the place. I mean, we seem to be sort of taking a pounding and then routing a unit, eliminating a unit. I get the feeling I'm going to wish I had a few more minutes on the YouTube. Well, by putting more units in there, well, oh, 1-1. That's because they're all knackered. Ah, defender retreat. That was nice. 4.2. 3.4. So instead of stalling the advance in Istad, they're stalling the advance here. They don't even seem to have taken any of Beersheba yet. I think this game needs a bit of tuning, but even so, it's quite interesting. I think what I might do is give the Egyptians a mechanized unit, and yeah, Israel. Well, I think there's no point in doing anything other than attacking that. 1.6 and 3, and no effect on anything else because the odds just go down and down. This wasn't too bad. 1.6 on the third unit, giving him a total of 6.1. So not looking so good over here, but let's see what its artillery can do. It's going to power all the artillery into here, one after the other. 1, Ouch. No, that's not artillery. Attacker. Oh, God. No. I bet the Israelis never pressed the wrong button by accident. .9, 3.3. I'm just pushing it now. Can't believe it just lost a unit. I mean, how much have they got? 13, 23, 13, 9, 9, 10, 3. He's got 1 good unit. That's good. 2 good units, 3. This isn't going to be as easy as it sounds, but... Oh, 1 to 4. Yeah, well, that wasn't... Ouch. That just goes... That's what you get for not really thinking as well as you should. I mean, I just didn't think in that. I just assumed that they're also knackered, but even those artillery units with 1 defence, 4 of them times 3 is going to be 12. You know, 12... 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. You know, I mean, 1, 2. Yeah, plus the factors for the armour. I don't know how it got to 30, but I should have predicted that. Now he's knackered. To 1 and exchange. Okay, well, the thing is that they're pretty knackered over here. Let's try bombing this artillery again. Strafing all these treated units. Yep, Israelis in that part are pretty useless. Well, this is it. Defender retreat. Okay, we'll leave it at that. But that was obviously a defender retreat, it didn't work, so there's obviously a couple of bugs based on these latest developments that I've done. I'm going to have to look into. Basically, they're not always retreating. So, okay, I'm going to stitch that together, and I'll speak to you later in another game.